I finally did find a doctor who sat me down and said, "Yep, I've got I've got good news and bad news for you. I have a diagnosis. You have arachnoiditis. Bad news is there's nothing you can do." And in
Yeah.
that moment, you're like so
That's
happy
that's
that you
that's
have a name for it.
well, welcome back to Arachnoiditis Unfiltered. We've been a little lazy around here. Life has been kind of taken off in not so good directions for me. I've been dealing with my mother who has advanced Alzheimer's. She had fallen and broken her hip a couple of weeks ago, was in the hospital, and she did not come out the same person. So my sister and I are going back and forth watching her 1 week at a time. I travel to Tulsa. My sister lives a mile away, and so we, want to give good care and plus spend the time with my mom while she's still the same person. Because if you've never dealt with Alzheimer's, every day is a small slice of something that's pulled out of them that you'll never get back, and that they'll never get back. And it's very um, it's a very heartfelt disease because it just happens so slowly. It's not like sudden death. You get over it, you grieve, go through the stages. So anyway, I just wanted to apologize about that, but I've got some great news. We're gonna kind of segue. Today, I have Julie Utz, not related to the snack, unfortunately, and she is truly a committed adhesive arachnoiditis advocate. She falls right in line with Sarah and I as far as trying to get the word out, trying to help people understand this disease. Um, she's kind of taken it a step further than just the podcast that Sarah and I do, but we welcome her on today. She's actually put a conference together. She's going to tell us all about that. But first, we're going to certainly find out about her journey with arachnoiditis. Um, this event is going to be live in person as well as online. Yay! That's a big one. I had to drop that bomb because now they're you listen and go, I want to find out more, right? So it takes place at 6 p.m. October 22nd. That is Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you set your clocks accordingly. I'm certain that there's going to be a website that we'll be able to go to that will be, we'll put in the liner notes here as we're talking about this. It's also hosted by or sponsored by Arachnoiditis Hope, which is Dr. Forrest Tennant. Uh, if you have arachnoiditis, you know who Dr. Tennant is. He is gosh, he's like a diesel engine. He just keeps going and going and going and going and going. You just never going to stop the guy, right? Um, he's going to be there as well, talking about just basically understanding adhesive arachnoiditis, which there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of things that go into it that you hear it from one person and it might not be right for the other person. It's such a uniquely identifiable disease to each person, not necessarily a group. So, without further delay, Julie, welcome
Hi.
to Arachnoiditis Unfiltered. I'm
Thank you
flying
so much
solo
for
today.
having me. Yes, I know Sarah couldn't be with us, and I look forward to hopefully being on one with her, but I am so glad
Yeah,
we were able to get this together to get the word out.
absolutely. Yeah, because time is of the essence.
Yes,
October 22nd, we're talking what, 3 days.
Wednesday,
So
yes.
yeah, it could be bang, bang, bang. And
Yeah, I
um,
just got the approval from Dr. Tennant to do the live this week, and so I've been the scramble to get this all together, so that's why such the short notice, but we just appreciate that it's going to be done and available to all of us no matter where we are.
yeah, we're going to encourage everybody to watch this episode so that they can get interested in this, especially people that are new to the disease, right? Because there's such a learning curve with it. How long have you been on your journey?
Yeah, so my journey started about 5 years ago with just having the back pain and starting that journey, and I had a surgery in 2021 that left me with more severe pain than I went in with. And so it took me until about a year ago to actually get the official diagnosis. So it's pretty new for myself. that mid gray area of when you get the disease to when it's actually diagnosed, you just feel like you're losing control of everything. You don't understand, and the doctors don't know. They just don't know, and so um, they're not very supportive in it. It's just kind of you have to fight for yourself. That's a big thing is you have to be an advocate. You are the only person who knows what your body's feeling like. And so I just never stopped, and I finally did get the diagnosis, and since then have just learned my own limitations or ways of dealing with this disease and taking in some of the protocols, but the protocols don't work for all of us exactly the same. And that's where I say this disease is a very unfair disease because we can't just say, yeah, you've got it, I've got it, this is what we have to do.
It's not a
So
cookie.
no,
No.
it's not a cookie cutter disease. So Dr. Tennant, I know most of us know he had the conference out in Colorado in August. I was very interested in going, but financially and physically, it just was not possible. Thank you. Yes, I was able to get my hands on one of those recently,
Yeah.
but I decided to take my energy instead of trying to get myself to Colorado to actually inviting Dr. Tennant to Buffalo, New York. Love Buffalo here. We're right outside in a suburb called Williamsville, and he accepted the invitation to come and put the seminar on. So put on a new hat.
Blessing.
And so and our goal is to actually have a larger conference next year, which hopefully after the seminar is done, we're gonna get that more information about that. But I really wanna talk about this Wednesday, understanding adhesive arachnoiditis, and it's not just for patients. It is I have a core group, we have about 30 people coming in person who are providers, physical therapy, chiropractic, mental health professionals, nurses, anyone who works in the field and who actually might hear a patient say, I had back surgery and I'm experiencing these symptoms because the diagnosis is it's underdiagnosed and we need to change that. We need to not only get the treatments in place, but we need to get the diagnosis right.
They've got to be willing, at least the medical community, they've got to be willing to ask the questions. Have you had a myelogram? Have you had a lumbar puncture? Have you had an accident? Have you had surgery?
Have you been
Any of the
tested for Epstein-Barr virus? Have you been tested for those things that could be an indication that it's progressing the disease further?
yeah. Yeah, because I mean if it's lumbar, go straight to the feet. Are you feeling this? Are you feeling that? And if so, you know what? An MRI is so here's kind of the catch 22 with this. An MRI, only way you can diagnose it. Very expensive, time consuming for the patient. And if you're like me, I can't lay on my back without being in excruciating pain and lay still for an MRI. So every time I have to have an MRI, I have to be sedated as if it were like a major surgery. The last time I did it, which was just a little over a year or so ago, they did CT and L spine because they were looking for a spine fluid leak. And they were also trying to figure out, hey, can we fix this guy, if he's got this leak? And no, they couldn't. The end result was they're going to put a leaky shunt in just to equalize the pressure, right? So that it's not constantly growing. But um, here's the biggest rub is when you're diagnosed, what the hell's next? I mean,
Mhm.
seriously, got a diagnosis, you got 50 cents, you can go get a Coke and be just as better off with the Coke as you were before you got the diagnosis. So um, you fall into a pit of where do you go? What do you do? Who do you talk to? What do you take? And that's what you're going to teach these people at your seminar. I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, and I will just with my diagnosis, I looked for doctors in my area, nobody was helping me. I went to Cleveland Clinic, and they didn't have the right doctor. looking at my stuff, and it was very expensive, and I couldn't afford to go back. And I finally did find a doctor who sat me down and said, "Yep, I've got I've got good news and bad news for you. I have a diagnosis. You have arachnoiditis. Bad news is there's nothing you can do." And in
Yeah.
that moment, you're, like, so
That's
happy
that's
that you
that's
have a name for it.
you
But on the other hand
you are, but until you start looking into it and you figure out why the doctor says, "I'm sorry," when you got that diagnosis,
yes,
because they know
yeah,
you're in for a world of
and
pain.
the only thing he was going to offer me was an internal pain pump, which counterintuitive to anything you do invasive is going to progress the disease, yet you want to do an invasive procedure to put a pain pump in, and I was under the age of 50, and that is a commitment to having this in you that has to be refilled and has to I'm like, I'm not willing to give that part of me up.
Right.
So I've been on that journey of just trying to do other treatments and other things and finding Dr. Tennant and confirming. I did also go to Johns Hopkins University, who they knew the disease, they confirmed the disease, but again, they treat symptomatically. They don't treat
That's
the disease.
that's the pitfall with this disease is that it's it, there again, here's a catch 22. Oh, you need painkillers,
Yeah,
but you can only have so many because, we want to limit the amount of addictiveness that you get into versus the amount of pain that you're in. Give me a break, man. I mean, I
I
so want to these guys and just
yeah. And I actually have gone through 2 pain management doctors, and there's a point that they go, "Well, we're" uh, I'm sorry, again, you all know the brain does not always keep up. Um, "We're interventional pain management. We've been treating you too long, we can no longer treat you." So then I'm like, "Okay, so who's a chronic pain management doctor who can treat me?" And there is no one, because no doctors after this opioid crisis, which Dr. Tennant knows well enough, it's a stigma, and it is
yeah,
not the opioids have been overused and not used appropriately, and that leaves chronic pain sufferers suffering more because we cannot get what we need. And so we need to educate the doctors and the medical field as to we're not drug addicts. We are not asking for these just because we have a little pain. And we also need the medical field to look at this disease not just symptomatically, but treat the actual disease so we don't possibly in the future need the opioids and need pain to be treated that way.
you
So,
know,
yeah, so
if they
that's
knew the numbers, well, if everybody that I know of says it's underdiagnosed.
yes.
It's just a fact
Yep,
because not everybody that walks like initially, like I would say maybe 8 years before I was diagnosed, I was having the effects, and they put it off as neuropathy,
yep,
gabapentin, blah
yep.
blah blah. And then finally, it was just like, man, this is getting so much worse. It can't just be this. And so I finally had an MRI. The MRI should have been done way back then because they probably could have intervened to an extent. But even in 2014, when I was diagnosed, there was so very little on the internet. I mean, you could pull up just a few pages. Now it's everywhere. So it's proliferated like crazy. But it's from the efforts of people like you, myself, and Sarah, Dr. Tennant, et cetera, Lori Burton. Um, we're out there spreading the word. We're documenting it online. We have a podcast now, a YouTube channel, and we're just trying to make a difference with what some people label as a rare disease. I would say the extent to which you're afflicted by it could be rare. Like I have chronic equine syndrome and I have adhesive arachnoiditis. That's a shitty combo. You have to trust me on that one.
Yeah, I will trust you. I luckily am I'll stick with my
But
adhesive arachnide.
um, where we all suffer and we suffer differently because we did a pain is personal podcast. So
Mhm.
I think that was one of
Yes.
our first ones, and because it is very personal, as personalized as dealing with this disease. Um, I think you can probably categorize in a couple of different uh, funnels what you really need to know, what you think you need to know, and what you need to stay away from. Um, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You three
Yeah.
buckets pretty much. And I think it would be easy enough for advocates like us to come up with like you could probably do a top 500, but you almost have to narrow it down because nobody's going to read that deeply into it. But uh, 10, and then have some subsections in there with other things that go along with that. Um, one being, first one being your own advocate.
Yes.
Um, Nobody's going to advocate for you. The pain doctor is going to walk away from you, as you said. Oh, we can't go beyond this period of time because then it would be perpetual, and oh, I can't do that. So fuck off and suffer. Pardon my French. I mean, but I kind of reached the end of my rope with these people, and I can show my true colors. I'll probably bleed.
Yeah,
That's
I
kind
have
of
yeah, I reached, a low point, and mental health is a huge part of it too, where we need that support as well. And
that should be the second one, honestly, on that list. Because if you don't get help and you continue to just tumble down the hill, it's going to take somebody that really knows you. And if you live alone, who are you going to come into contact with that says, Steve, you need help? And back in the day, I did need help, so I can truly understand that, and that's a very, very solid point that you bring up for sure.
yeah, and so I have fought for myself and became that advocate for myself, and I call it my team. I have a great team of specialists around me, and if I didn't have those people willing to listen to me for number 1, willing to look into the disease because they did not know it to begin with, and 3, be available to fluctuate because you can't always do the same thing and get the same result with this disease, especially between people. Steve, you and I talked, we have the same disease, we have a lot of similar symptoms of that disease, but not everything works for me the same way it works for you, or we have to do to keep ourselves going. So that's where the understanding that we're not trying to just be troublemakers or complain to doctors or anything, or we're not
If anything,
crazy.
you don't complain enough. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I
Yeah,
had a very, difficult conversation with a doctor who tried I understood what he was trying to say because the mental aspect does cause more stress, which can cause more pain, but the way it was
inflammation.
worded was, "It's in your head." And you say that to a patient with chronic pain and who wasn't as in tuned as I was to myself, they're gonna hear that they're crazy and there isn't a reason for their pain. And that's not the case. And that's not what this doctor was trying to say. It's just the way he said it, it's the way he worded it. And thankfully, I came back and pushed back at him and said, "You can cause damage by saying that to a patient, and you need to be very careful the way that you word that. I understand your meaning, but the delivery is very important, especially to," and that was before I had my diagnosis. So, I was still in that gray area of not knowing what was wrong with me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And
so
if you're in that dark place, right on the edge, and you get that kind of advice from somebody that you trust, medically speaking, I mean, if you're really, really weak and lost, you could go home and end it all, right?
And like
And
you
honestly,
said, if you're alone, if you don't have that support, do I early on in my journey, my first surgery was in May of 2021, and in March of 2022, I ended up in a partial hospitalization program for mental health
man,
because I was grieving the loss of the life that I knew. I was not understanding what was happening to my own body because no doctor could pinpoint what was going on. The surgeon was saying everything was fine. Now, the surgeon, I don't blame the surgeon. What he did was fine, but what he did caused inflammation that wasn't detected and treated appropriately, which led to it becoming adhesive arachnoiditis and uncurable at this point. I'm not going to say never, but
yeah, hey,
that's what we're working towards. But right
hope,
now,
yeah,
you know,
flows
so
for you.
that
But
program was wonderful, and the stigma of mental health as well needs to go away. We need to talk about what we're dealing with. We need to be able to reach out and say, "Hey, I'm not okay, and I'm struggling with this." And grieving something.
yeah,
I
well, and
mean,
then if all you have to do is turn on the television, and you find an America that is so foreign to me, it feels like a third world country.
yes. Yeah.
And then you, thankfully, I got through all my stuff. I was on medication, still am actually, um, just for depression. But man, every day I get up and despite the world feeling like it's crashing down, I find a reason to be happy,
Yeah.
um,
Well, that's a
because I get
reason
to.
to do the next step. What are you just because we have pain, just because we have a disease doesn't mean that we're not passionate about something and or can't do something. And I have recently really gotten involved in different things and movements and back into things that I'm passionate about and it keeps me going. And yes, I've decided recently, I another part of it that, the doctor after the first surgery, I couldn't bend, lift, or twist. That was the advice. BLT, don't bend, lift, or twist. And they just kept extending that because my symptoms kept getting worse. And what happens when you stop moving? Your muscles stop working. And
Yeah,
guess what? I had to fight back and bring my muscles back from atrophy. So I made a decision recently that I'm going to be in pain. That's that's the fact, but I can be in pain and be moving instead of just not moving, and that's that part of that mental health you have to tell yourself, and I actually am one of the lucky ones. I mean, my disease is very, very painful, it's very, very progressed, but I have taken myself off of most opioid medication, all opioids off of the gabapentin because they can cause even more pain and more
yes.
problems. And and so I have taken a lot of mental ways of dealing with the pain where you have to almost tell your brain that yes, I'm feeling that pain, but I'm not going to lean into that pain and make it worse. And do a lot of, meditative work and understanding our own bodies and controlling our own narrative in our own brains. One of the things in the partial hospitalization that, I keep telling myself is you don't always have to believe what you think. You know, your brain
Sometimes
doesn't always tell you the truth.
I have had occasional delusions of grandeur, but I I I
So,
I tend to temper them down going, "Okay, maybe in my 20s, but not in
yeah.
my 60s."
But, so that's my side, that's my patient, and that's my patient voice that and I want the medical community to hear and learn what the disease is, and I want the medical community and the community of support that we have, the families and friends to hear what we're dealing with and what we're doing to keep ourselves going.
I think along that line, um, and one of the things that I used to be good at was cold calls. I I never loved them, but I was good at 'em, right? I just have my list and I would just go, "Tick, tick, 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 tick," and once you do the first 1 or 2, it's all downhill from there. You start to get a rhythm,
Mhm.
you start rapport. I think the next wave and effort needs to be directed at the medical, associations. Um, American Academy of Pediatrics, Family Medicine, uh, Academy of Family Medicine, or whatever that one's called. Uh, the surgeons. I mean, you can
Yes.
go just for whatever thing. There's like going to be 100 medical organizations, but it needs to come from the top down with these guys. That look, this is being underdiagnosed. The people are suffering so bad, and it's made even worse with the war on opioids. Which again, that war pretty much over. They tamped down the thumb screws, and they just scared everybody. And I saw the writing on the wall when maybe, oh gosh, I can't even remember now. It's been so long. It was in the before the 2020s. I quit everything. Gabapentin, Valium, which is one of the most painful drugs to get off of. It is so highly addictive. Um, I was on tramadol. I was on Toradol. I mean, you could go down the list, and they had me on. If
Hydrocodone,
yeah,
oxycodone.
yeah. If something wasn't working, they would give me something else. And again, I appreciate their effort, but they're just leading me down a bad road. And with the war on the opioids and the underprescribing now, you brought up a good point earlier that they cause their own problems when they're internalized, right? I termed it micro withdrawals. In between this dose and this dose,
Yes.
you get to here, and you need it, and then the body starts it starts saying, "Hey, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. Give me that medication."
Right,
And then
and
that's
it's
where
not the pain, it's actually your body
it's the withdrawal.
wanting the
Yes,
drug.
exactly. Because once I was clear that it took me, I was on so many medications for so long a period of time. It took me at least, and I don't say this sparingly, at least 3 years to feel normal again,
Mhm, yeah.
because they had such an effect. I went through 3 months of living hell, hardcore withdrawals, night sweats, feeling like you got the worst flu in the world, body just feel like it's caving in on itself. And then that kinda, I got out of the woods with those 3 months, and it started becoming a little bit better, but then it was a roller coaster. Some days were good, some days were bad, and I could barely cross the floor. But it was that 1-year mark. When I made it to that 1-year mark, I felt great. My mental clarity started to clear up, but I would still get these every now and then. It would creep in. Um, I mean, not to get off on too big a tangent, but I, if you can get off the drugs, it's a much better life.
And
But
I think that's a fallacy for people is that they need the drug
right, yeah,
because
some for
I'm
some,
in
yeah. I mean,
pain.
yeah,
And yes, there is a point that it is needed, but it's a crutch, it's a Band-Aid. It's not treating the disease, it's masking it.
right. You're not learning how to live with the pain, and what I come to understand, because we all have flare ups, right? I mean, barometric pressure drops, and
Yep,
boom, there goes a flare up.
temperature.
Um, Hard work, like if I bend and pick up sticks in my yard, I know I'm in for a world of hell that night. But um, you learn that the worst pain that you're going to be in is never going to last forever. It's always going to be cyclical with adhesive arachnoiditis. It's positional. Sit in the wrong type of chair, pain.
Go to
Um,
dinner, go to a restaurant and have a
exactly.
wooden chair, and you're there for an hour and
Oh,
a half, 2 hours,
yeah,
and your family is like, "What? We just went to dinner, it was an hour, can't you?" And it's
yeah. I suffered for an hour. You enjoyed the meal. I mean,
right.
I stayed alive by eating my meal while I was suffering. So, where's the scale of justice on that
Yeah,
thing, man?
yeah.
I wish, somehow I wish that, you could have fixed like a little electronic buzzer, uh, to their foot. And anytime I feel pain, like a stabbing pain, bing,
The whole
yeah,
table
like
gets it.
yeah, hey, welcome to my world, baby.
That's just a tenth of what we deal with.
Yeah, exactly. That would be like a 9-volt battery to our, supercharged battery, right?
Well, plus it's also and I try to use a lot of analogies because people remember, like, little quirky things that you say over the statistics, and I always try to say, like, our brains are our bandwidth. You only have so much bandwidth, and our bandwidth, half of it's already gone just managing the chronic pain.
Yeah, at
Just
least.
just processing the signals coming and going. So take half your brain out, and you're functioning on brain.
Yours has stopped for some reason, okay?
You don't know what just happened there. It's the bandwidth. Anyways, just to wrap up that, so the people is even if they could get that pain, that strike of pain that we get, they have a full bandwidth to handle it, and we only have half. So,
Yeah, yeah, right now, my pain is
um,
mostly all on my right foot, so my left hemisphere
I
is
never thought
constantly
about it
busy.
that way because yeah, mine's my right side. I never yeah, yeah, but then
Yeah, so
the left side
'cause
compensates in other ways, like, those muscles are working harder, so that hurt, so anyway,
well, it's creating
yes.
new pathways, honestly. This is the way I see it. I've been dealing with pain since I was 20 years old. 43 years now I've been in pain daily. Um, I often say that I'm good at suffering. If you're gonna be good at something and you're gonna be in pain, be good at that, right? That's like, thank God, thank God.
Hey,
Although I would
we could
prefer
have
not to
chosen
be in
something
pain,
else to
but,
be good at,
that's
know?
yeah, yeah, that's
It
our
is, and
that's
it
our
is our
life.
life.
So,
That's the other thing we have
we
to remember
we
is it's our life,
yeah,
it's our
yeah,
journey, and we are the ones that are in charge of it.
yeah. Don't come at me with, "You get what
No.
you get and you don't throw a fit."
No, I wouldn't
I'm gonna
say
throw a
that, but,
fit.
we have to be this we
Yeah.
need to be the author
No,
of
no,
our
no.
own stories. We need to, take
Yeah,
the
yeah.
lead.
I think too many people, tend to make up their own, they tend to judge from their perspective of what they see. Like, I know if I had a conversation with my ex-wife right now that, man, I'm honestly, I still have a good relationship with her, and I would really like to know what she was thinking because we never really clarified that towards the end other than her saying, "I'm tired of being roommates." But there were so many holidays missed, and that's another thing is that you're gonna have to center your life around this disease when you get it because it's unavoidable that you're going to cause harm and problems with every relationship you have, whether it be a friend, a casual friend, or somebody that you're used to going to, the bar and watch football or play golf or, go bowling or whatever your sport of choice would be. That all changes. I mean, it changes over time. It's not like, oh, today I can't do it because I got diagnosed. It's just you start to figure out
For how
when and what
much?
you're
Like,
capable
if
of
I'm
handling,
out one night,
right?
I might need 2
Yeah, yeah,
days
oh,
off
yeah,
to recover, and so that's, the journey, but yeah, so that's why I'm very excited about Wednesday evening, and I'm excited to see where this goes, because we my biggest thing is, you get a small group of people together and they know more people, and the more it's talked about, you're gonna find the right person to listen and and get the ball rolling, and so we're just gonna keep our voices going and bring light to this disease and get some things changed for the next I always said, I'm taking my energy, so someone who goes through the same journey might have a different outcome, and they might be more
yeah,
diagnosed quicker, better protocols, catch it before it becomes adhesive arachnoiditis, because there's the difference between arachnoiditis and adhesive arachnoiditis, and they're 2 very different treatments. So, that is the goal.
Yeah, once the
You're
once the adhesive arrives,
yeah, sticky it's a
it's not
sticky
going anywhere.
situation.
It's game over. And that's where honestly, that's when positional pain comes into effect, because once those nerves are plastered to the dura and you bend and twist, guess what? That that's gonna stretch. It's gonna pull against that tissue. That's where the pain comes from. That's where the constant irritation of sitting in a chair that's so uncomfortable
And you
is
have to
so
remember
painful.
that all of those
S
nerves are clumped
ours
together, and all of those nerves are supposed to be sending
Yeah,
signals other places, but because they're in a clump, you don't know where that signal's going. It goes wherever it wants to. So, you're getting very strange symptoms and pain in places that don't make sense to doctors because they aren't looking at it as that clump. So
yeah, yeah. Something else
mhm,
that I wanna touch back on, um, is a blood test. We definitely need a blood test. There's again, there's some sort of inflammatory marker that has got to be consistent between the vast
uh,
majority of us that have this, because that's really, some people can go in and have a myelogram, lumbar puncture, back injury, and nothing happens to them. They are asymptomatic. But for those of us that just get it, lots of women, and I say this constantly, before you get an epidural, talk to somebody that got adhesive arachnoiditis right after they
yeah.
got that
I
they gave birth.
I
Talk
have to
about
say,
life
like,
changing.
the surgery that I had May 4th, 2021, I will never forget, was the very first surgery, very first time I was under anesthesia in any way, shape, or form. I didn't even have epidurals with my childbirth, 2 children, natural childbirth. I
I had a girl.
my body didn't really give me a choice, but that's a whole 'nother story.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
my ex-wife, same
So,
way. Yeah,
it
natural.
so I had no idea that my body was going to react the way it did. And it's no one's fault, but I have the Epstein-Barr virus, EBV virus reactivation. We didn't know that. We didn't know to look for that. And that's something I, say too is like, you're going in for surgery or an epidural, test for that first. Test for these things. And I don't know if it would change the outcome, but then you know that there's a possibility that look for these symptoms post, because there's such a correlation, and there's so much being learned about it, but we need more. We need more.
That's only knowing that going into any type of surgery is only so good if, um, one, you have to
Mhm,
do kind of a cost benefit analysis on pretty much every surgery that we're going to have. Um, but there are some that are, epidurals. That's a choice. Um, Myelogram, all depending. I mean, they can give you contrast, and you can go into a CT and get the same, imaging effect without actually doing the myelogram. It's just basically contrast in the IV. Um, same thing with an MRI with
yep, that
gadolinium,
I've
I
had
think it
that,
is.
and,
Um,
you mentioned getting the MRI and how expensive it is and how difficult it is. I had multiple. After that first surgery, I must have had 4 MRIs in 2 years. And no one caught it because they were looking my it was a laminectomy at L5-S1, so the very lowest. Well, the cluster was forming at L3, and nobody was looking there. So, that's why I said even the radiologists have to be informed because they need to know how to read the MRIs. Doctor Tennant can look at an MRI and know he needs to teach these radiologists and radiology students, and that's why getting the medical community to admit that this disease is as prevalent as it is. And Just swallow the pill.
Mhm.
Yeah, it might happen from a surgery, a shot. We're not blaming the doctors for giving us the disease. That's not why I'm
No.
fighting for this. I'm fighting for them to learn from it and know what to look for. So if they do have a patient who ends up having the symptoms.
Yeah. Well, and I think they need to do a little more research into, a stronger steroid, because that's really the one thing that we have working for us, is that you can cross the blood-brain barrier with some of these steroids, right? But you the problem you run into is that if your body creates them naturally, the more you take them artificially, your body starts to shut that process down. So you'll go from, uh, creating your own prednisone to not to being, productive with a pill, and then that brings on, oh, you got liver problems now. So, I mean, it's just like boom, boom, boom. There's so much that you learn through everything that we go through, and they're not small things. I mean, you do liver damage with all the pills that I've taken. Good God, I need to have my liver function tested. Trust me, I've been doing this for so long. Um, but and that's another, concern, is that you have to kind of monitor the steroids as they go in and kind of cycle on and off, give your body a chance to go back to producing. Yep. I mean, there's another. Well, that's a term that we used in radiology. It's called ALARA, ALARA, as low as reasonably achievable, right? Because you're in so much pain and you want to take 2 pills instead of 1, take 1 and see what that does. I mean, again, this is not medical advice. This is just this is just the shit that I've been through, because I did some sort of, uh, questionnaire online, and it said something about, uh it was something with Medicare, I think. Have you Are you on pain medication? At the time I was. Have you ever counted your pills? I don't think so. I mean, I might have looked in there and saw 5 and saw, "Hey, there's 5," but, um, apparently, if you're a drug addict, you're gonna count that stuff out and you're gonna measure it till you can get your next prescription. Um, I never really did that. I just kinda took it when I needed it, not regimented, because there's kind of another school of thought with respect to keeping pain at bay, right? If you have medication that you take and you take it as they prescribe it, you'll kind of keep it low wave. If you get in the worst pain imaginable and you have to take that pill, you'll get down, but then you'll continue to go up and up and up, and it just becomes a nasty cycle where you'll never get out of it unless you take too much of it. Unfortunately, yeah, oh, pretty huge. Uh, yeah, I think, to your point, unification. Sarah and I have talked about this offline ad nauseum. Unification. We have ACMCRN, we have Tennant Foundation, we've got all these other little things. And I got you involved with it now. You've got our podcast, um, and we're all crossing paths, right? We're having conversations, we're passing messages, reading messages, um, but there's no meeting of the minds. And I think that may be the next step that happens. All the big players, however you want to look at it that way, come together and say, what do we need to progress towards the goal line, which is what? Early diagnosis, um, understanding the disease from the medical community's standpoint, and how to get that out there. Exactly. And let's can we be optimistic and think about a cure? I mean, you got the Gates Foundation, you got all these other huge organizations that give money out to charities, for things like this. And Christopher Reeve was trying to learn to walk again, right? And why can't we partner with them? I mean, because you never know, uh, if he would have contracted this disease. And if he felt the pain up here, but it was happening down there, because that's how pain is processed. It's not there, but we perceive it there. That's why we have phantom limb pain, when you're missing a limb. Um, uh, those are, I think, the next steps that we organize and we reach out, um, because that's where you affect change. Yeah, reinventing the mis yeah, yeah, because there's not too much to figuring out if you have this disease. I mean, if you've got that pain in your foot, if you've got that pain in your arm, if you've had a surgery, if you've had, manipulation of the spinal cord in any way, shape, or form, and and then you know what you have flare ups when weather changes, or does it get worse during this time or during this time, or does it get worse at all, or does it maintain itself? If they know that, then they can go straight to the MRI and be done with it, and then say, you know what, we're going to prevent you from being a total catastrophe in the medical industry by being misdiagnosed for so many years and letting it get to a point of progression where we can't do anything about it except just hand you a couple of pills and say, sorry, you know? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think I think the point of the injection is to get immediate relief, right? If you take an oral steroid, it takes at least a day for prednisone to really have its effect on you 24 hours later. And even then, it's kind of like, well, if I'm having a good day now, uh, can I just not have to take another one and kind of continue the good days? And then 2 days later, you're in a flare up because you stopped. I mean, that's been my experience. It's just like I get so fearful of wanting to take medication because I've been on so much for so many years, and I have a 30-day rule where if I'm prescribed anything new, I'll take it for 30 days. Let me anything to show a benefit after 30 days. If there's no appreciable benefit or none that is worthy of continuing to pay and take, I stop. And the reason I do that for 30 days is because almost anything is easy to stop at 30 days. You're not fully addicted to it, right? 90 days? Yeah. You could be stretching it, and that's where addicts come from, sadly. And yeah, we're not addicts. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I almost think that, along with the mental health aspect, needs to become some sort of drug counseling, because when you have this disease, you can walk in and say, hey, guess what? I got the crap disease of all diseases. Oh, carte blanche on this prescription, that prescription. And not always. Some are relatively varying, but because I complain so little if I go in, it's like, yeah, you don't complain, so we know you're hurting. Um, and yeah, it's it's such a slippery slope with this disease and what they want to give you. But it's a cheap option. Yeah, I mean, pennies. The medications we're on are pennies. Literally. Um, I think also another area that could be showing a little bit of promise is deep brain stimulation. They've been doing it for um, people that suffer from depression, and they show huge benefits. And that's the only one that the FDA has actually approved it for. But a counter benefit has been people that were in chronic pain are being relieved of their pain considerably so. Yeah, I am, but knowledge is limited. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, being your own advocate, right? Researching. A lot of people don't like to read, and to be honest, medical journals are, man, they're dry. Get to the conclusion. I don't care about how many people. I just want to know, was it a blind, double blind, whatever. And yeah, just give me that knowledge. And that's where I forgot to mention this up front, so I want to mention it now. If you are newly diagnosed, if you have any type of new diagnosis, please go under Rare Patient Voice. We'll put a link in the liner notes here. We get $10 for every person that registers, but the benefit that you have is that they have studies that open up. So put all your disease, all your diagnosis in, because that opens you up to studies where you can make up to, I believe it's $160 an hour. Which, man, Christmas coming up. Hello, let my diseases pay for pay for a little bit, you know. Or- yeah, a night on the town, whatever. So, yeah, anyway, so right, yeah, I stand alone in Oklahoma to my knowledge. And the funny thing is I've been in so many, uh, articles and magazines and, podcast interviews, and I always talk about arachnoiditis. I just I find it shocking that not so many people are going, "Hey, I've got that disease." You have to go on Facebook and, a crowd of, however many thousands that are registered in some of the bigger website or some of the bigger Facebook groups. Um, I don't go on there all the time anymore because yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I mean, while you're there, you might wanna mention to them that we need a collective, and then we need to divide and conquer and do what we're good at, right? I'm good at sales and reaching out and sharing my story, kinda trying to raise things up. Uh, we're doing the seminar. I mean, you know, if we're all kinda doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's a waste of so it's time that somebody took the bull by the horns. I'm not that guy because, I mean, even if it's a collective of just a couple, but, you have broad outreach within our organization to just wanna see something happen. I mean, we get, these updates and, the Tennant's news that's coming up. I hope it's mind blowing, but I still think that, there's an off ramp to the way we've been doing it to the way we should be doing it, in my opinion. Organization. Yeah, it's my when I was diagnosed, my, uh, neurologist, I asked him, "How many cases have you seen in your career?" He was in his 40s, he's only seen 5. Um, I mean, that one that tells me it's either A, underdiagnosed or it's just not that prevalent, even though we think it should be, but the fact that more women are diagnosed with this, I think it was 80% of everybody diagnosed is a woman. What does that tell you? Yeah, I tell you what, really, we're gonna change the world, right? What was it? The old saying is, "You can eat an elephant one bite at a time," and that's kind of we have to look at this, right? It's a big elephant, but, we got enough people chewing on it, we'll get her done. So, hey, thank you so much. Um, yeah, yeah. If you can show up, show up. If you can't show up in person, log in. We wanna see those numbers get big, big, big. Yeah, yeah. Power in numbers, right? We all wanna be advocates for anybody else that's newly diagnosed, because it's a raw yeah, you can go. I do my talking this way, but anyway, thank you again, Julie. You're very welcome.